From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, it's game week. Let's go! Mike Norvell press conference summary, depth chart breakdown, all of it coming up. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Promo code Corey Clark. Start the 2024 season right.
Warchant BOGO.
Let's go! Buy one, get one free, everybody. Doesn't matter the flavor, the variety. Buy one, get one free. Variety pack. Buy one, get one free. Try it. You're going to like it. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Energy, nutrients, one little bottle. What more could you ask for? Again, promo code Warchant BOGO. Warchant.com. Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source FSU 1. 2 months, $1 American. I was almost about to say $2 1 month, but no. $1,
No.
2 months. That'll take you into just shy of the first college football playoff poll dropping. Thereabouts, I think, Corey?
That's right. Early November, right? I think.
Yeah, so.
I think they drop them the first college football playoff show is literally the same exact day as the presidential election.
Ooh, all right.
So if you're looking for a little distraction, head over to ESPN and watch something that's really corrupt.
Yeah, see, they're gonna hack the playoff poll.
Yeah, that's what they do, man. That's what they do.
Ballot boxes in Grapevine, Texas, being just unbelievable. All right, so plan for this week, everybody. It's gonna be a little bit topsy turvy with all the travel going on, but we're here for you on Monday. Tomorrow, we're gonna do another show that's gonna be timely. We'll be at practice later this morning, so we'll have observations from the last practice that Corey and I will see together. But Corey will be stationed in Tallahassee as the team practices here. So, if I'm not mistaken, they're practicing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday here in Tallahassee, then we'll get some work Thursday and Friday in Dublin, game on Saturday. So Wednesday, we're going to have Chad Bishop from the AJC on the show to talk all about Georgia Tech, give us a full breakdown of what the Noles are going to be going up against. Thursday, we'll do some season prediction stuff. And then Friday, TBD.
You're right.
Maybe Irish show fell. Probably Irish show fell because Corey's going to be on a boat.
Yeah.
He's going to be on a plane and a car and then a boat.
Yep, and then a train on the way to London after the game. So I'm all modes, man. Literally every single mode we got out there of transportation, I'm going to be a part of it in Europe.
Loving it. What I didn't love was that yesterday there was a press conference and it was just Norvell. I thought it was going to be everybody. I thought we were going to get the whole gang. I thought we were going to get the whole band there, Fuller, Atkins, and Papuchis. But we just got Norvell on Sunday. Monday, today, we will get Atkins and Fuller and Papuchis. And then Wednesday, I think we're going to get Norvell and DJ Uwe-Ungalale. Okay. So I guess let's start off with the fact that we didn't get the coordinator. Or actually, let's start off with what we got, and that was Mike Norvell. Anything stand out to you from what he said? Seemed to be standard fare from Mike. I did like the fact that he seemed to be quite confident. I don't know how it sounded, but I'm sure the words written out that you were typing about his praise for DJ and where he's at and how excited he is for DJ, it read really well.
You know, the whole team, though, right? Like, yeah, it read well. He's like, he talks all the time about it's remarkable how much he's grown. And not that he was coming from a bad place, but like how much he's adapted to Florida State and fit in. And he uses the word remarkable a lot with him. But I just thought the way he talked about the team. Now, look, no coach is going to sit there and pour mouth his team before the season opener or before any game, really. But he – and you want it because it's not like a normal press conference. Well, number one, there was plenty of people missing, myself included. Ira's, going across the globe, so there was some presence that usually, especially Ira. Let's be honest, Ira's the one that usually carries those press conferences. Right. But it's also not a normal press conference in the sense that this is a season opening press conference. It's not just, hey, I'm going to talk about Georgia Tech. It's more of like his thoughts on the preseason and what this season could be and how good it could be. And he said multiple times how excited he was to see it, to see what this team is. And I'm sure he said that last year. I'm sure he said it in 2020, for all we know, and talked about how hard they worked. But there is a gleam in his eye, and a glint, if that's a word, in his eye
Yes.
about how excited he seems to be for this team in particular, to get to watch them on that stage. He mentioned the stage. He also mentioned game day, which was funny.
Opened with
but
it.
on that,
Started with his
he
opening
did.
statement
Yeah.
on it.
Well, his point was Florida State was the first on location game day when they played Notre Dame in '93, and now Florida State will be the first international game day when they play Georgia Tech. And then, a year or two from now, they might not even be an ESPN property. Who knows? But anyway.
It could have added to the fact that they played in the first ever BCS national title game. They were part of the first ever college football playoff when it was 4 teams, and they should have been part of the last college football playoff that was with 4 teams. That would have been.
Hey, they very well could be a part. The way he talked about his team on Sunday, Aslan, it
Yeah.
sure sounds like he expects them to be a part of the first 12-team playoff. Like, he seemed genuine. He talked about how explosive they are with the measuring of all the GPS. It's the most explosive team he's had. I did the numbers, Aslan. This is something we'll get into in a second. But it's got to be the oldest team he's had. Even though they lost a lot of guys last year, go look at that depth chart, man. Go look at the starters. It is a whole bunch of little R dash senior.
Yeah.
All over that depth chart. But yeah, I just thought I was not taken aback, but the thing that caught my ear the most, I thought, was how much he's looking forward to watching this team play. And that seems genuine. Again, it would be weird if he said, I don't want to see I'm scared of what I'm going to see on Saturday. But he didn't have to be so over the top, seemingly confident about it. So, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like on Saturday. But the head coach seems to really like his team.
I think it's positive anxiety. Because I think he truly doesn't know, because they are bringing in a lot of new pieces. But I think he's confident in their approach and the way they coach these guys up and their systems and the philosophy and the culture, that it's going to take hold sooner than later. But I think there probably is a little bit of, there's got to be some nerves, man. This is his first time going to a game with DJ. I mean, I know he's played a lot of football, but like, this is your first time live game. They're breaking in all the, they got all new wide receivers. They might have a brand new running back behind DJ in terms of Roydell Williams that didn't play last year. So that offensive line, though, is what probably helps him sleep well at night. It's what helped me sleep well at night the last several months, because that's going to be the strength of the team, despite the fact that, we were kind of reminded of it. I mean, I totally forgot about it. Shout out to Jordan on the beat who brought up the question. I wouldn't have even thought about it. But the whole Alex Atkins situation with the recruitment of Amarius Mims, where he's going to be suspended for the first 3 regular season games of the season. He'll be in Dublin. He'll be out there these next 3 days in Tallahassee as well, but he won't be able to coach during the game, very much like Jim Harbaugh last year. And look how the Wolverines did last year, everybody.
That's right.
But maybe that's a little bit of a sticky wicket to manage with a new quarterback, a new running back. But Gabe Fertitta, a solid dude. So go read that story that Ira worked on later last year. About it. What are your thoughts on? I totally forgot about that. Has it been at the front of your mind? No Atkins in Dublin?
No, but it was something. I am interested. So we think he's going to be in Dublin.
He is. No, he is. I confirmed. He is.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, okay. So he is going to be in Dublin, but he can't go to the game. So where's he going to watch it from? Or can he be in the stadium and just can he be watching it from a suite? Can he be in the I'm genuinely interested. I wonder if he even knows. Like where he can watch it. But yeah, and he also has to miss the Boston College game too, right?
First 3 regular season games. Yeah,
oh, okay, so he missed the first 3, yeah. So, it does help that he's got such a history. And for the people that don't know, Aslan's right. Go read the Ira story. Just Google Ira Schoffel, Gabe Fertitta. Because that's how, if you Googled Ira Alex Atkins, a lot of stories would come up. It's specifically about that trio of guys that helps, it's the trio of essentially offensive line assistants. Although the other guy's not here anymore, right?
Yeah, Cooper Williams was his name?
Yeah, that seems right. Sorry, Ira. I did read it. It was a really good story. I just can't remember the kid's name.
Missouri. He's in Missouri now, apparently.
Yeah. But Fertitta has been with Atkins for a good long while. He's very noticeable at practice. He helps a lot. He's hands-on anyway. So you would think that the transition would be a smooth one for these 2 games. But it also, again, going back to that roster and that 2 deep, the depth chart, man, what else can Alex Atkins say to Darius Washington?
Right.
You know what I mean? They've been this is their 5th season together with all these guys. They know by rote what Alex Atkins is going to say.
Or do you mean what can Gabe Fertitta say to them? Are they so far advanced that Gabe Fertitta really can't crash this thing into the side of a mountain?
No, I mean, like, it's there's not, other than like maybe a tweak here or there, I guess, game plan wise, like what they're going to do, there's not a lot offensive line technique wise that they haven't heard a million times from Alex Atkins. It would be more of a concern, genuinely, if it was Armella and Early and Rizzi and these guys that had never started at Florida State before.
Fair.
But you might have a lineup that has 4 guys that started last year. You're definitely going to have a lineup that has 4 guys, right? Whether it's Darius, Maurice, Byers, and Scott, or Darius, Maurice, you know what I mean? Like, well, maybe there's 3, I guess.
Yeah,
but
probably
you get the
3/5.
point.
Yeah.
Keandre's in there
true.
too. So all these guys have a long history with Alex Atkins. Has played a ton of football for him. They're all 23 years old. So if there was one position coach that would be okay to miss, I think, for a couple of games, is the guy that has the oldest position group maybe in college football.
No, I can't disagree with that. I mean, I do wonder if it's more of a disappointment for him personally to not be out there, or, you know, when the bullets do start flying, that's a familiar voice of those guys. I mean, the way he communicates to them, not that they haven't heard from Gabe Fertitta before, but it'll be a little bit maybe of a different kind of process of information being delivered, just slightly, but not enough to derail things, because to your point, just the amount of experience, and not just raw experience, but togetherness. As you pointed out, man, the likelihood that they're going to have 4/5 of that offensive line having some level of continuity is incredible.
Also, I assume Gabe's cell phone works. Just say, I don't know if he's going to be able to get reception in the stadium, but I assume he can. There could be some text messages coming in. Is that against the rules? Probably, but forget I said that.
Give Darius the dot. And just let Atkins use a walkie-talkie in a luxury suite and just talk to Darius in the dot. Like, hey, man.
Sounds we're coming up with a lot of plans to help this team out, man. These are foolproof.
Yeah. All right, let's get to this depth chart. Let's start on the offense. As you mentioned, I mean, if we take out the R's and just go by seniors, man, I think 9 out of the 11 guys on offense.
I did. So in the story I wrote, the column I wrote about just kind of analyzing the depth chart,
10.
there's
only Jalen Brown's the only guy that's not a senior that's top line first team guy.
Well, and you could throw in T.J. Ferguson because he's an or. But they have 28 guys in bold on the depth chart for offense and defense. There's 22 positions. They have 28 listed because they're they have an or for like Earl Little or Kevin Noles. That's an or. Of the 28 guys, I believe 22 of them, it's at least their 4th year in college. And I think 16 of them, it's 16 seniors. It's 12 redshirt seniors, something like that. But it's also overall, it's 22 guys out of the 28 that are at least in their 4th year of college. And one of the ones that isn't is Azareye'h Thomas, who's in his 3rd year. And then Earl Little is in his 3rd year. So, man, this is an incredibly experienced. It's like, that's kind of what I wrote about, is when you look at the depth chart, really look at it up close because it's here in front of you, you see it. It's like, this is incredibly old. So just down the line, real quick, DJ, starting quarterback, obviously, redshirt senior. Roydell and Toa Feely are the 2 listed as the 2 starting running backs. Senior, redshirt senior. Malik Benson listed as a senior. Ja'Kai Douglas, redshirt senior. Jalen Brown, we can talk about that in a second. He's a redshirt freshman. Tight end, Kyle Morlock, redshirt senior. Darius Washington, redshirt senior. Richie Leonard, senior. Maurice Smith, redshirt senior. Keandre Jones, redshirt senior. Jeremiah Byers, redshirt senior. Or Robert Scott, redshirt senior. That's crazy. So
and
when you see it listed like that, you're like, holy cow.
And if you want to be a cynic, though, you're like, well, if they're really good, they wouldn't be here. They'd be at the league, and it's like, all
that's
right,
fair.
Well,
That's a fair, but they should be better, you think, than most of the teams they're going up against, talent-wise, and they're going to be more experienced than all of them. So you feel like that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's not a good litmus test for this because they're kind of in some ways built similarly, but this is almost your whole blue chip versus non-blue chip. Because those blue chip guys, those super duper 5-stars, as you like to call them, Corey, like they do their 3 years and they usually leave. Guys that stick around 5 years, not necessarily aren't ready for the NFL or aren't NFL caliber, But they're like late bloomers. They're 3-star guys, like a Darius Washington that's going to take some time to mold, put the size on. Maybe he does get hurt early in his career and he's got to battle through it. Same thing with Maurice. So, I mean, these are guys I think that had fairly high ceilings, but I mean, they came in close to their floors, though, as being a 3-star kid. But they've had so much time that now they've developed, and now they're grown guys. They played 2,000 snaps. And yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I do want a bunch of guys that are in their third year and they're total NFL first round, second round, guys' destinies. But I don't mind this. I don't mind this at all. I like this a lot. I like the makeup of it very much.
Well, again, I use this example a lot because it's the truth. But like right now, I don't know who the number one linebacker in the country was last season. I don't have a clue. He's certainly not here, is he, folks? But whoever the number one rated high school linebacker was in the country for the 2024 class. You can't tell me in the middle of August he is a better football player, a more productive football player at this level than DJ Lundy. Just can't. There's just experience means so much. Now, 6 weeks from now, it might be different. Certainly maybe 2 years from now, it might be different. So that's like the Petty kid that just committed to Georgia Tech. There's no chance, none, zero. And obviously he's a high school senior, I get it. But that him next year will be anything close to Darius Washington this year, or Robert Scott, or even Jeremiah Byers, who I know is maligned here a little bit. Like Jeremiah Byers in 2024 is a much better football player than Josh Petty will be the first game of 2025. So you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you want these shiny toys, you want these really good players, but other than like the Ohio State wide receiver, again, you're far away from the ball. Those guys can make immediate impacts. But as you get closer to the line of scrimmage, certainly the front seven, really the whole defense, honestly, you just want experience there. And then the guys up front on offense, and a quarterback, man, experience is so important. It's just so important. I don't know if Georgia Tech releases their depth chart. They might be one of those schools that doesn't. I don't think they do, actually. They do all that nonsense. Or maybe that was the last coach. Maybe Brent Key is more of a normal guy when it comes to depth charts. But, yeah, man, I think that this roster, this depth chart, the way it's put together, there are some question marks. Like Malik Benson's a senior. Well, Malik Benson hasn't done a whole lot at this level. He's old, but he's not experienced. But again, if I'm going to have an inexperienced guy, I feel like I want to have the talented 21-year-old or 22-year-old as opposed to the talented 19-year-old. I could be wrong there. But overall, yeah, you look at this, I think it's a really nice collection of guys that will be in the league, not Jared Verses necessarily, but I feel like out of these guys, a good number of them will get drafted, and it is an old football team. So there is talent. You don't want a bunch of 22-year-old one-stars.
Yeah.
Or guys that aren't going to be in the league. Yeah, that helps you a little bit when you're going up against a young and talented team. But overall, talent matters. Well, it's not like this is a group of dudes that can't play, but they're old.
Right.
They can play and they're old. So it seems like that's a pretty good combination. We'll see how special they end up being. But overall, it's a collection of good college football players, I think, man. The big question marks, really, honestly, Malik Benson, Jalen Brown, and nickel. Kevin Noles or a little. We'll see what that is, and it's safety. Yeah. Those are the big question marks. I feel like everywhere else you feel like you're going to be at least decent to good.
Yeah. Speaking of good combinations, I was ready to jump in there when you said good combinations and get to our corner pocket read, but you kept going. You almost spoiled the defensive side of the depth chart. Defensive or defensive?
I say defensive.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Do you carry the D?
I say defensive, like defensive. I don't say defensive lineman.
Yeah. Defensive. Yeah, you're right. Don't quit being so defensive.
Yeah.
I say quit being so defensive.
Right on.
To everybody in my life, because I attack everyone, and they all get mad about it. So I tell them to quit being so defensive. Attack
your lunch hour over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill with a delicious half-pound Black Angus beef burger. Comes with a side dish of your choice. Straight fries, curly fries, a tater tot, side salad, freshly cooked potato chips. Plenty more options as well. Only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. But happy hours are going on afterwards. So if you don't want to do lunch there, just go hang out, watch the game of your choice on the Vegas wall, and enjoy delicious beverages at happy hour prices. Tuesday night will be trivia night per usual. Thursday, bingo. Plenty more to do in between that as well. Check it out at cptallybar.com. See the social calendar. See the menu itself. Do we have a premiere date on the Corey hitting the menu, Corey?
It might be already there, man. I was out of town, so I got it. I'm sure I'll be there at some point before we leave for Ireland. So I'm gonna go check it out and see. I've seen it though in the flesh. Like I've seen it. They've just got to be put into the sleeves. So I bet that was done on Sunday, and here we are starting a new week and a new football season with the Corey wrap. And we should mention that I think I mentioned it before, but Corner Pocket will be open at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Yep.
So get there early so you can get a good seat for the game that starts at noon Tallahassee time.
Yeah, and you can boo. You can boo loudly when game day's on and they show Herbie. Boo.
Yeah.
Boo. But don't boo the food. It's delicious. You're going to love it.
Right.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. What do you think about that? What do you think about Jalen Brown being one of – I mean, first off, there's 13 guys they have listed on the offense as like having starting positions. They've got 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers and a tight end. Can't do that in a real game. But Jalen Brown, I mean, I know Dugan said some nice things about him. I think Norvell had said he'd kind of been coming on. Did he win by default, you think? Or, I mean, especially it's him and then Darion or LaWayne McCoy. I would have figured at least like LaWayne McCoy might have nudged himself a clear-cut number 2 spot behind one of these guys. But alas, we are not at that point yet in the
Don't you
LaWayne
think
McCoy
some
experience.
of it, though, don't you think some of it is like why ruffle feathers? Like, if LaWayne McCoy's probably not going to play a lot in this opener, and maybe he does, maybe he plays 50 snaps, but why put him ahead of Darion, like the veteran? Like, show some, I don't know. Deference to the guy that's been here longer, on a depth chart anyway. Maybe not in the game because your livelihood is on the line, but in the depth chart, maybe show a little deference to the older guys, which is kind of why I was surprised that, honestly. Well, I don't know when it comes to Jalen. I know they have different positions for wide receivers. They have Kentron second string behind Malik, but I really think Kentron is Jakai's earned the slot. They don't list him as a slot; they just list him as a wide receiver. But I would have thought Kentron would be where Jalen Brown is. But Jalen Brown is going to play. He has made some plays. I just that one. That's the only one, right, Aslan, that I looked at and was like, oh, all right, that's interesting. And I'd kind of noticed it in practice with some of the formations and alignments they had, who Jalen Brown was running with. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Good for you, Jalen. And maybe he turns out to be awesome. And I'm sure that sounds like I'm dismissing him. Like I've seen enough. He's not any good. I'm really not. He's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, the verdict isn't in on him, though, at all.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I saw enough in August, in late July, to think, okay, yeah, that guy's going to be one of the starters. Again, we've talked a lot about Malik and Jakai were almost automatics, and they're there. That third spot, I was just surprised that Jalen Brown is mentioned or emboldened on the depth chart. But I still would be I would be much more surprised if he plays more snaps than Kentron.
Yeah.
Even though they're kind of listed in different parts of the depth chart.
If I didn't have to do a podcast in which, I'm paid to talk about this team, I would gloss over this, but I guess maybe it's at least some weird little bit of an observation. It is interesting that they've got the 3 different receiver spots and they don't specify for the X, the Y, or the Z, or the flanker, or whatever you want to call it. But like they've got Jakai starting at one of these spots at wide receiver at 5'9", and then the guys backing him up apparently are Deuce Spann and Elijah Moore.
Yeah, both are 6'4".
Yeah, so it's like, is that an inside spot? I guess it depends on the set they're going to run,
I think it's essentially they know Jakai is going to start, and they know Malik's going to start, and it's like, well, we don't really have depth charts for our receivers necessarily, or we just want to make sure Jakai is in bold, and then these 2 guys have a place somewhere on the depth chart.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So we got to put Deuce and Elijah somewhere. So let's put them under Jakai because we got Portier and Hakeem under Benson.
Yeah. Lots of weapons though there on the offense, man. Roy
so
Dowd.
9 receivers. They got 9 receivers listed on the depth chart.
So just need 8 out of you 8. Feel like Malik's got something carved out already. Just one of you 8 guys, and maybe it'll just be a revolving door. I'm sure Jeff and Tom have mentioned it. But I don't want to get too lost in the weeds about the second wide receiver thing. But like when you have that many guys have that differing of a skill set. I know it'd be great. Listen, I want like a reliable guy. I want Rashad and Kelvin Benjamin. That's what I want. And I want you too, Kenny. Love you, man. But when you talk about one position sort of, and you have like 8 options, feels like it'll kind of work itself out over the course of a 13-week season, right? It just one week it might be Ken Tron's going to be the number 2 guy, and that's fine. Maybe it'll be one game where Deuce's speed really is able to get, used and showcased a little bit better. So I guess if we look at it through that prism, it shouldn't be as much of a concern.
Yeah, correct. I think yes, correct. We all remember the Darian Williamson half against Boston College. Like sometimes there's going to be a receiver that just gets hot or makes a few plays and has himself a game. I think Malik is the constant. I think Ja'Kai is a constant. And then I think those other guys, they're kind of orbiting around that third spot, and one will have a game one day, he'll have 0 catches the next week. I think that's how this offense will be. I just added up. I didn't realize they did this, Aslan, on the in the notes, but they on the depth chart they had career starts for all these guys.
Oh boy.
So the offense I totaled up. I did quick math, but I came up with 282 career starts for the guys on the offensive depth chart.
Wow.
And then for defense, I'm going to do it in my head really quick. 47, 62, 91, 104.
That's 304, 47, 62, 91, and 104.
No. So for the defense, it looks like it's around 220.
Okay.
So total, you're talking about on the depth chart around in the neighborhood, this was very, very quick math, about 500 career starts. But it's also telling, I think, well, it's because of the offensive line, that the offense, even though we don't think it's going to be as good as the defense, has more starts by a pretty sizable margin than the defense. But like somebody like Marvin Jones has 1 start in his career. He's probably R.A. Thomas has 1 start. You know what I mean? So, but he's also got a lot of starters experience. So it can be a little misleading. But you are looking at a football team on its depth chart that has, and this doesn't count the punters and kickers, because then you're talking about 100 just between those two guys. But yeah, you're talking about 500 starts from this depth chart. Pretty remarkable, man.
Last thing on the offense, I think those guys in bold. I mean, that's the starting 5 I had after the first week of camp. Darius left tackle, Rich at left guard, Maurice center, Keandre at right guard, Jeremiah Byers at tackle.
And just so we're clear, on the depth chart, they have Keandre Jones or T.J. Ferguson, and they have Byers or Robert Scott. But yes, Byers and Keandre Jones are listed first.
Atop the other players.
And it's not alphabetical because Jones isn't before Ferguson alphabetically. So, yeah, take with that what you will, but yes, I agree. But how about this? So let's say Robert Scott doesn't start at right tackle. Man, you talk about a guy that can fill in, though.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? And then what's also cool, and I think this was brought up in the press conference, it used to be Darius Washington would be the main backup at like 3 of these different positions. But you've got Lucas Simmons, Bryson Estes, Otto, Rizzi, and Jalen Early also all on the depth chart. Along with the 2 guys we mentioned, Ferguson and Scott, who probably or might not be starting. So you've got 12 guys listed. And I feel like, honestly, Aslan, don't you get the sense that they think all 12 can play? Like if they had some a bad injury luck on the offensive line and lost a couple of guys to sprained ankles, it would not be the end of the world like it would have been 2 years ago. I feel like they really like some of these backups. And I don't know if Lucas Simmons is necessarily ready to be your left tackle if something happens to Darius, knock on wood.
Yeah.
That's where Robert Scott comes into play, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He started, 30 games at left tackle in his career?
Yeah.
That's a nice feather to have in your cap in case something does happen to your apparently All-American candidate.
And I do wonder, and we need to get to the defense here real quick, but I do wonder, it says it's Richie Leonard and then Bryson Estes at one guard spot. Right guard is Keandre or T.J. Ferguson. I feel like if Richie goes down, it's probably not Bryson Estes next. That would just be my hunch. But I don't know if that might get me
I wonder because then you're like, I think the thought there is, okay, do they move Darius there? But then in Robert Scott to left tackle, it's like, all right, but I think they like Estes. He's a bit older than most of their backups. I think he can play. He's a redshirt junior. If not now, when? I also think I saw somebody ask about Armella on the message boards, and I think Armella's in there, man. Armella's done some work
Not on
with
the depth
guys
chart,
that will
though.
be starting. He is not on the depth chart. It's not a great look for him, but I do think he's not in the mix necessarily, but he's just right outside it. And I do think next year he is absolutely in the mix. He might end up being in there this year.
Let's hope. All right, moving over to the defense. Shout out Cam Riley. I think the biggest, I don't want to call him like a surprise or anything, but to see Justin Cryer listed like as an oar behind a entrenched DJ Lundy, like I thought Cryer might be kind of competing for one of those bold spots on the depth chart, but I'm not concerned. I'm not overly concerned because I think Cam Riley's actually done pretty good, and DJ's been limited, but it seems like they got a pretty good amount of confidence in DJ. So Cam Riley, DJ Lundy, Blake's maybe coming off the bench. Obviously Adam Fuller really likes Omar Graham Jr., talks about him working through injuries, and he's healthy now finally. So I feel like linebackers going to be just fine. The front four, not a surprise. Peyton, Farmer, Jackson, and Jones. The secondary, Devontae Brown or Conrad Hussey. It sounds about right. Azari obviously starting. Shaheem starting. Fentrell. Noles or Earl Little, I don't think anybody really saw that coming 3 weeks ago, or at least definitely when camp started, or at least going back to spring, if I want to be for sure in making a statement.
Agreed, but I think Noles has had the better camp. And they're both listed as an or in bold, but Noles is on top. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But I do think they'll both play a lot. I don't think that's not a position. Even Jarian didn't play every snap last year. But 2 years ago, I feel like there was a lot of rotation at that spot, and I think that's kind of what you're looking at. You're not going to have probably a second-round, third-round NFL draft pick playing at your nickel position this year, but you are going to have two guys rotating in like you did 2 years ago, I think, personally.
Yeah. What do you think about one of the tackle spots having Darrell Jackson, then it's Lyons or Grady Kelly? I mean, I feel like KJ Sampson's probably their third best tackle, but I was probably hoping that Grady Kelly would have been that guy. But I guess they're going to rotate these guys so much, not a big deal. Nothing to really read into it.
Yeah, but it might be Lyons. He was asked about what guys made the biggest strides, and on defense, I think Daniel Lyons was the first guy he mentioned. So I do think they like him. But yeah, I think Sampson and because they're it's a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore who will probably be in your program next year. So if everything being equal, I think they do like Lyons. Probably Lyons and Sampson probably a little bit better than Kelly and Durajai right now. But again, you look at that group, man. I do think so. It's Farmer, Sampson, Durajai at one defensive tackle, and then Jackson, Lyons, Grady Kelly at the other defensive tackle. I honestly think all six of them are going to play.
Yeah,
maybe not in Ireland, but I think they're going to play at least some reps in every game. I do think they're going to want to keep those starters fresh, and I think they like the depth they have, and I think they can wear down the middle of an offensive line, just throwing a lot of really older, experienced, or good bodies. Like Grady Kelly's not a special talent, but he's a big old kid that isn't going to just be dominated.
He's married. He's a man.
Yeah, he's right. He's not going to be dominated. He has a mortgage. Guys with mortgages don't get dominated by college football players, gang. Yeah. So I do think that I think they like all six of those guys. And honestly, you look at the defensive ends, literally, so it's Peyton and Lolahea on one side, and then Marvin Jones and Byron Turner Jr. on the other side.
Bummed to not see Hester. Sorry, I'm bummed to not see Hester on there.
Yeah,
I thought Hester
it's
had a
odd
good camp.
that I would have thought he would have been an or in there somewhere. But that's 10 guys on the depth chart. And I legitimately think there's a chance all 10 of them, if they're healthy, play in Ireland. Not just play this season, like play in Ireland in that game. I think there's a chance they like that defensive line group so much. Now, there is a drop-off, because there always is, between your front four, your first four, and your next four. But, man, that's good to have depth like that you can count on, or think you can count on anyway.
I think Tomiwa only plays if they're up big. I don't think he gets in. I don't see week one crucial situation, like, 1 possession, 2 possession game, fourth quarter. I don't see it.
I hope Tomiwa's listening to this.
Hey, man.
He makes you eat your words.
Hey, man, I mean, I own stock. I'm not divesting from it. I'm just trying to provide a little bit of a balance, perhaps another viewpoint on how I see that shaking out. Otherwise, yeah, secondary looks about right. The Noles or a little thing we touched on real quick there. Cam Riley, Blake Nicholson, DJ Lundy. All right, let's go, man. Devontae Brown, Conrad Hussey. Kind of would have liked to see Hussey maybe take that spot firmly into his grasp. It seemed like he was being, I don't know, worked into that spot last year. Like, I guess that was kind of maybe some of the hope. But I'm not going to get too concerned over that because remember, some of us, me, be like, man, that was a really bummer they lost that Jalen Key guy to Alabama. What are they going to do? Like, I like Akeem, but what are you going to do after Akeem? And then Shaheem had a really great season. You're like, okay, he's ready to be a primetime performer now. So I feel like Devontae Brown, Conrad Hussey maybe give you something of similar quality that Shaheem gave you last year. Shaheem's having a great spring, great camp, but I don't know if I felt that good about Shaheem. The way I feel about Shaheem now is not the way I felt about him last year. So a guy like Devontae Brown, Conrad Hussey could grow into that spot and be just more than adequate.
Yeah, I would think right now, again, it's an or, but if we're going to go by what we've been doing, and again, we don't have any inside knowledge. Literally, it's not like us like being tricky with you guys. Like, literally, we don't know who the starters are going to be because they do rotate guys so much with all the guys that we know will start.
Some of those ors we can, but that's one that's a legitimate
Well, no,
or.
but I'm saying, like, I feel like, are we going to go with the guy that's on top as the guy we should assume is starting? Because if that's the case, it's Devontae Brown. And he's on top of Conrad Hussey. So just like Noles is ahead of Earl Little, according to that, and Cam Riley with Nicholson. So I feel like if we're gonna keep going with that, then Devontae Brown will probably be your starter. Which again, that's a redshirt senior. Yep. He's never played at Florida State, but he has played. So he ain't. Again, you're not looking at a guy that's going to have a 12-year NFL career probably, but if he knows where he's supposed to be most of the time, if he understands the offense or the defense and what he's looking at from the offense, then that's a big deal. And they're going to have just that experience, man. It's just just like we did with the offensive line. When you look at that secondary and you're like Noles, Earl Little, Fintrell Cypress, Shaheem Brown, Devontae Brown, Azarie Thomas, I mean, that is a ton of experience with talent, a lot of talent sprinkled in there. But yeah, I think that's also, don't you think, Aslan, that position might be one that could go back and forth throughout the year?
Free safety or nickel?
Free safety.
Yeah.
Well, nickel too.
Yeah.
But I think free safety is one that, like, it's almost, to me anyway, it's almost going to be like a weekly audition.
Yeah.
Most of these are kind of locked down. I feel like that position
who had the better
might be
week
more of a
practice.
weekly audition.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I don't remember seeing Conrad flash much in practice, but I know like Devontae had a play last week or the week before where I mentioned it on the show, just like the linebacker didn't do a good job of anchoring down and getting their assignment held. I shouldn't say held, but you know what I'm saying. But like Devontae Brown came out of nowhere and like saved that play. Like there was a huge gap for the back to hit, but Devontae Brown came screaming down and tackled him. And, lesser player would have, if they wouldn't have seen it or known it as quickly and diagnosed it as quickly as Brown did, that probably would have been a touchdown because it was like a red zone drill. So
yeah,
I know it's one rep, but that just kind of underscores the level of experience they have. Maybe not, again, the flash, the accolades as high school recruits, but they've got guys that know this defense and play quite well. So,
and I also think we need to keep in mind that like they will have 6 DBs on the field a good bit too. And they'll also have 3 linebackers on the field a good bit too. So, like, when you talk about Justin Cryer, I do think Justin Cryer will be on the field. He's listed with Omar Graham, and then Cam Riley and Blake Nicholson are both kind of emboldened. But if they go with 3 linebackers to start, or against Georgia Tech, you might play 3 linebackers a good bit because you feel like they're going to try to run the ball a lot, and you're going to want to have your big guys near the line of scrimmage. There's a chance that Riley and Nicholson will be on the field together. Just like when you're playing a pass-happy team or a team on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 12, there's a chance that Noles and Little will be on the field together.
Yeah.
So, they could, like, maybe they're emboldened because if they go on a 4-3 look, your starters might be Riley, Nicholson, and DJ Lundy. I'm interested in Riley and Nicholson, man. We know what DJ is. They love DJ. He's experienced. He's the leading returning tackler. You know what you have in him. Even if he takes a sizable step, you know what you have in him. I'm really interested to see what Riley and Nicholson on the field look like together to go along with Marvin Jones. Like Marvin Jones is listed at 6'5", 255. Then right under him is Cam Riley at 6'5", 237. Patrick Payton is 6'5". Darrell Jackson is 6'5". It's wingspan for days, Aslan. It's the wingspan defense. It's Paul McCartney and wings. It's just crazy the amount of size this defense has, just height-wise. So there should be a lot. I'm expecting Nicholson to have a couple of picks this year just on batted balls.
Okay.
Just a couple of batted balls by those giant defensive linemen. They they tip a pass up in the air, and Nicholson's it's Blake on the spot, and catches it and runs with it the other way.
I'm relatively sure if Adam Smith, the father of economics, was with us today, he would be a fan of Manscaped. Smith, as you all remember, argued things like the invisible hand and, more importantly, specialization, saying that companies are going to grow, hires are going to be made, and they should have defined roles and specialize in one skill. So yeah, you've got some clippers, but they have a role. Manscaped has a more specialized place in a man's grooming arsenal. Some might say a more delicate role, one involving the moneymaker, to bring it back to Adam Smith and economics. How about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra? It features skin-safe blades and a cordless design, which is kind of clutch. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code WARCHANT at manscaped.com. 20% discount, free shipping. Manscaped.com. Be him and trim. All right, one last question on the way out, Corey.
Okay.
Unless you got something to add after I ask you the question. So lots of discussion on the JCS on Friday and then over the weekend about, what's 9-3? How do you gauge that? How do you judge it? Do they get in if they're 10-2? How many ACC teams make the playoff? I want to ask you this, just kind of, I hope it comes off clearly, but I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, Corey. Tell me whether or not this gets you into the playoff if you're Florida State. I'll say all of them, and then you can size it up after. They go 10-2 with losses to Miami and SMU. 10-2 with losses to Miami and Clemson. Or they go 11-2. They lose in the ACC championship game. It's a split with Clemson. They beat them in the regular season at home. They lost to Clemson neutral site. Do you think Florida State gets into the playoff in either of those scenarios? Does either scenario seem more plausible for a playoff candidacy?
I would think the last scenario seems the most plausible as far as getting in. I think if you have an 11-1 regular season and you beat Clemson and then they beat you in the rematch, but you split head-to-head, as long as Clemson's not 7-6. You know what I mean? If Clemson has a normal Clemson year and they're 9 or 10 wins too, there should not be any real shame in losing to that team in a playoff game, which is what that would be, at least a conference championship game. So I think 11-2 with a loss to Clemson and a loss to whoever, Notre Dame. I feel like that's, especially, I know people don't want to hear this or think about this. I do think Florida State would maybe get the benefit of the doubt if they're right on the cusp this year because of the travesty that happened last year. I do think they're going to be, okay, do we take 9-3 Ole Miss, who lost their regular season finale to Mississippi State, but had that great win over, name an SEC team, or do we take 11-2 Florida State, who we completely railroaded last year? Let's go with Florida State just to shut their fans up. Maybe. That's where I could see it. Like if they're right there, I don't know that 10-2 with a loss to SMU, you have a lot to really. And you didn't even you didn't even get to the ACC championship game.
Correct.
No, I don't think you're getting in. I think you at least have to get there. You have to get to the championship game, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, because the 10-2 options, like you're not making it there. Not
right.
To say that like that doesn't get you into the ACC championship game. I think you'd probably have 2 conference losses and maybe even still work your way in there somehow. But just at least for this exercise. So, all right, just want to get your temperature on that one. So. All right.
Hey, let's hope we get there. Let's hope we're talking about an 11-win Florida State team in December, my man.
That'd be awesome.
That sounds like another fun year.
Absolutely. All right,
hey,
man.
Shout out real quick before I forget.
Yep.
I met a guy named Aaron. I actually met him at one of the first football practices. His son was participating in the Link Jarrett baseball experience. And that's what it's called. I wasn't being a smart ass there. So I met him there. I forgot to give him a shout out. Crazily, after the great concert I saw the other night, Aslan, that you know about up in Atlanta, guys, you're not going to believe this lineup. Especially if you're anywhere over like, what, Aslan, 41, 40?
Yeah.
You got Vertical Horizon. It doesn't stop there, Aslan.
Really?
Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Nice.
Come on. And that even, I'm still not done, if you can believe it. And then the Gin Blossoms.
Oof.
All played together. It actually, in this, it's called the Sugar Hill Bowl up in Gwinnett County. It's probably a 2,000-seat venue, maybe 1,500. It's a really cool, actually. I wish Cascades was more like it with the intimacy of it. Yeah. But it rained. It poured rain. So Vertical Horizon didn't get to play, which I know you guys are like, what? Somebody probably just steered off the road. But they did play their two-hit. The one guy came out with an acoustic guitar under the parking deck, like next to the venue, where it's like the loading dock kind of area. He came out with his acoustic guitar and played their two hits, Vertical Horizon's two hits. Look them up, folks. I'm not going to sing them. With a crowd of people standing around him. It's actually really neat. It's like probably the neatest Vertical Horizon concert of all time. He played their two hit songs from the 90s. In 10 minutes with everybody around him singing along and recording in a parking deck.
Like awesome,
that's crazy, right?
Awesome self-awareness to where he's like, all I got to do is play these two songs. This is all you guys care about. Let's just knock it out.
Wasn't it? And then the Toad the Wet Sprocket guy, when they were playing their set, even was like, hey, and y'all saw like the most memorable Vertical Horizon set of all time. Yeah. And I don't think he was meaning to be disparaging, but we get it, and he was right. It was awesome. So then, okay, so that was a cool part of the show, cool in quotes, but it was cool. Like if I'm going to hear them play, those are the only two songs I need to hear. And it was a really kind of a cool, memorable experience to be. Everybody there is going to remember that. And then Toad the Wet Sprocket played. They were good. They were fine. They played their hits. Then because the weather delay to start the concert because of the rain that went through around 7, the Gin Blossoms could only play 8 of their songs.
What, like noise ordinance or something up in the burbs?
I think it was like they had to be out by 10:30, packed and left or something. So they played, like I didn't realize I knew this many Gin Blossom songs, but they had like 6 like top 10 hits, which is crazy to think about, but they did. And they played them all right in a row, and then that was the show. Didn't have to listen through all the fat, cut through all the fat, and I wasn't there to hear a deep cut from the Gin Blossoms. Don't care. Don't need to ever hear that. So it ended up being a really fun, perfect kind of night, and with Vertical Horizon stealing the show in the parking deck. But so after that, we're sitting out, hanging out, having a drink at the bar that's right next door, and Aaron walks by, big Florida State fan. Nice. Wanted to give a shout out to you, and it was kind of cool. It's always a good flex when I'm in another city with people that don't really kind of know what I do. They're kind of friends of friends, and they see somebody want to take a picture with me.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I have to explain, well, this is what I do. It's like, wow. It's like, yeah, don't trust me. I'm not Leo, but for a small sect of people in this world, it is kind of cool to like see me out in the wild, I guess. So yeah, just a shout out to Aaron and his wife who put up with us talking football for 5 minutes.
Awesome. You can take a photo with Corey Clark in Dublin, Ireland on Friday at the Old Storehouse, 6 and 9 o'clock Dublin time, 3 Crown Alley, Temple Bar District. Again, the Old Storehouse, Friday night meet and greet. The Warchant gang that's going to be in Dublin will be there. Can't wait to see. I mean, do we think it's going to be bigger? I don't want to say better. Do we think it's going to be bigger than Resident Culture in Charlotte for the ACC Championship game? I
think it's a bigger – you mean like the turnout?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the place is bigger. I think the turnout will be bigger because it's not because, look at Warchant's there. It's because it's all these Florida State fans in a city they don't know, knowing where their brethren are going to be. So it's a great excuse for them to meet up. I do think it'll be very. I'm picturing it feeling as crowded as it did for New Orleans, just with a much bigger venue because there's going to be more people around. So it's going to be a wild, fun time, Aslan. I can't wait, buddy.
Cannot wait. All right, let's go cover practice.
Jeff's broadcasting that night during the meet and greet.
Yeah, he'll be having live shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. JCS is going to be live out there in Dublin, so let's do this, everybody.
And also, there is a coach speak. There is a coach speak that we recorded on Saturday that's already up, so go click on that when you get a chance.
Do that, everybody. We're going to go cover practice, interviews, footage, All the same stuff that you've grown accustomed to will all be waiting for you. Although maybe an hour later, they're starting practice at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, weird.
Shout out, Mike. Appreciate you. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.